The Eagles got rocked by the New York Giants. All right, guys, I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace, JK. This was all right, guys. This was a shellacking that the Eagles got dealt by the New York Giants. The Eagles lost on the road 34-17, which was the score I predicted, just the other way around. So, uh a lot to unpack. I think, there's a lot of places to start, but I want to start by giving the Giants in the rare opportunity against a division rival. I'm going to give them props. They were the team that wanted it more. They came out and took it right to the Eagles. The Eagles were undermanned and they took advantage of it and they made big plays after big play. And, this was a well coached game. Great play by their rookies. Jackson Dart and Scatabo really just set the stage and the tone, and their energy and their aura, like, definitely it was palpable in the stadium, which it was an awesome game for most of the game. And this first half was a test for the Eagles. Down early, we're like, wow, we're really just getting rocked by the Giants right out of the gate. We start this game off on the defensive end without Jalen Carter. We don't find that out until the game, so that's tough. And then early in the second quarter, we lose Quinyon Mitchell. And early in the throughout the course of the game, I don't even want to say early on, throughout the course of the game, Keele Ringo got cooked. The plain and simple. Keele Ringo got burned on a few plays, costly penalties, and it was an awful performance. Awful performance. And it sucks because this is a guy the team and I personally was really high on going into the year, and it's just a shame that, you lose your job to Adoree Jackson, and you get this opportunity the past couple weeks next to Quinyon. You're having moments, but you're playing okay, and then you're going up against the Giants' fourth string, third string receivers, and you're getting fried and committing penalties. It just doesn't. You looked lost out there. You didn't look like you had it. And plain and simple. And Keele gave up big plays, and the Eagles weren't as effective as they normally were tackling. Jackson Dart was able to escape. I think overall, when we look at Jackson Dart, 17 of 25, so only 8 incompletions, 195 yards, and a touchdown. He got 13 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown as well. So he had 2 touchdowns, over 250 yards basically. And he kept plays alive. Every time it looked like the Eagles had him in the backfield, he somehow escaped. And obviously, he got sacked a couple times in this game, but he was able to escape what looked like was a play that the Eagles defense won. And that was the difference in this game. Him and Cam Scatabo. Scatabo, 19 carries, 98 yards, so close to the 100-yard mark, but he had 3 touchdown runs. Now, granted, they were all, first and 2, but you got that big bully run. The Eagles can't do that right now outside of a tush push. They were physical, and the Giants just said, "Hey, we're not going to back down on this defense that we know we can take advantage of right now." Zach Bond had an uncharacteristic game. He wasn't bringing guys down the way he could have, and this was once the injuries started happening. Reed and Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship ran into each other in the second half, and that dinged them up. Reed had to go out for a little bit. They were dealing with just a lot of moving parts, and the whole function of this game, and the same with special teams, like, we were not clean. I thought, like, in all phases of the game, we just weren't clean, and all those little 50-50 plays, not as many penalties, cleaner special teams, like good punt returns, good kick returns. The Giants had that going, and they were taking advantage. And when we look at the Giants overall, they were 11 of 16 on third down because they got themselves into third and short, and they converted on those opportunities. And so is a bad game for the Eagles defense in terms of their third down defense, because all year they've been such an effective third down defense. And I found that to be really disappointing from a team that has been playing well. And I know you lose Jalen Carter, but early on that didn't seem to be bothering you. It looked like early on, this first half was a lot of back and forth. It looked like the Giants made a big play when they got that 30-plus yard bomb on third down early to that wide receiver who Keele Ringo was on, and they just won that 50-50 ball. And the Eagles had 4 penalties in this game, and I swear 3 of them were Keele Ringo penalties on plays where he's just one-on-one, and it was so costly. It was one on the goal line, that one that led to a goal line score that basically put this game away. Every time it looked like the Eagles were going to get a third down stop, they either didn't or committed a penalty, and it was tough. The Giants were incredibly efficient tonight. It wasn't anything crazy. Dart made some great throws, but they were dropping a few passes. Like, again, the opportunities weren't there. They dropped a couple interceptions in this game, too. It was sloppy. It was just a sloppy game by the defense. And so when that happens, you think, okay, the offense needs to step up in this game because we should be able to take advantage of this Giants defense. And for the most part, at times, for again, not a full game, right? That's been the whole thing. Not a full freaking game of football. They can't play a full 4 quarters right now. The Eagles just can't. They have great moments, great spurts where they can play themselves back into games. We were down early 14-3, and we were able to storm right back. And when we were doing that, it felt like Eagles football. We were going up and down the field, and we started running the ball with Saquon a lot early in this game, and then we went to the pass, especially once we got down. Jalen Hurts, 24-33, 283 yards, a touchdown. He had an interception that I'll get to later, his first of the year, and he went 7 carries, 13 yards for 1 touchdown. He wasn't that effective with his legs for the second straight week. But when we look at the receivers, Dallas Goedert, breakout game, 9 catches, 110 yards for a touchdown. He had a great game. A.J. Brown, 6 catches, 80 yards. They were targeting him. Devontae Smith, 4 catches, 49 yards. Could have been more. We'll talk about that in a little bit, too, when we talk about the offense. Saquon Barkley, 12 carries, 58 yards. You're averaging 4.8 yards a carry. He had a couple big ones early on to start the drive, start the game. And then you really didn't see much of him the rest of the way because they weren't running the ball effectively again. The O-line was not running the ball effectively. That whole rushing scheme, they had it early on and all of a sudden it went away. And when it came to pass blocking, I thought the Eagles did a good job. There was plenty of plays where we saw Jalen sitting in the pocket for 3-4 plus seconds, even more than that. And the play didn't develop the way that they wanted to, or guys weren't open. And we weren't able to capitalize. And then there was other plays, especially on crucial third downs, where that defensive front won the day. And they got a few sacks on Jalen. They blew up a few plays. This was we talked about this on the pregame. This was going to be the way that the Giants win if that defensive front can win those matchups and muddy things up for the Eagles. And they did that. So the Giants defense overall, they played a really good game. And I thought at times the Eagles were doing kind of what they wanted, but at the same time, they had costly errors and just boneheaded mistakes. Let's talk about that the drive to close out the first half. The Eagles get the ball back with about a minute to go, and it starts with on the kickoff. It starts with Tank Bigsby muffing the kick on a routine one. It wasn't one of those weird bobble ones. He just muffed a kick and set us back inside the 10-yard line, and you see Sirianni freaking out. And that's when we gotta address that real quick, because Tank Bigsby, we traded 2 late round picks for him a few weeks ago specifically to be a kick returner, when number one, he's not known for catching. And this was when Will Shipley got hurt, so we thought he was going to add something in the running room. So what did we trade him for if he's not productive like this? And this isn't the first week. These past few weeks, he's had errors. Tank Bigsby has. So it's been this trade's looking worse and worse by the day, Howie. This is just not a good fit. They even went to A.J. Dillon as a kick returner, which was crazy. So this is not the place you want to live in. So we get there. No timeouts, by the way. So the Eagles have no timeouts. Very similar to the situation with the Broncos last week. And we were driving. We got a few plays to AJ. We were getting within field goal range. And then the Giants bail us out and call a timeout with 15 seconds left. And it was funny, weird play, because we weren't going to get that snap off. It was going to be a delay game, most likely. So whatever, they bailed us out there. But then that very next play, Jalen runs the ball because he's getting pressured, and he runs up the middle, he slides, and it didn't seem like he registered the fact that he didn't have any timeouts, and there was really only 10 seconds left on the clock. So you got to go and spike the ball. And even when they're lining up, he's trying to call a play instead of just spiking the ball and just taking a shot. I don't know, we'll hear what his explanation is after the game for that kind of sequence. Did he think that they were going to try and go for another play because he didn't think whether or not they were in field goal range or not? I don't know, but that was bad process, right? And at that point, it was 17-20 going into halftime, and the Eagles' offense was moving the ball, and they had a drive to get up to 17 where they pushed it 4 times in the goal line. That's how you do it, right? It looks like they were asserting their dominance. They were controlling time of possession. They were doing all the right things. Then they come out at halftime, And here we go again. A tale of two halves. They had over 200 yards of total offense in the first half, and they finished with this game. They finished this game with 339. So they only got 100 more yards the rest of the way, and it's just not. Again, tale of two halves. And it wasn't just that. We were 1 of 9 on third down. We were not in third and short a lot, and we weren't converting. And we had a couple missed opportunities. Jalen missed Devontae Smith on a wide open bomb where that's an uncontested touchdown for Smitty, about 60 plus yards. And so that was tough. And then you're driving. Actually, it's in the fourth quarter. You're driving. This is the first drive. It looks like, okay, let's get back in this. Dart, he had to be taken out for a concussion to protocol to go check. Russell's in. They missed the third down, so the Eagles got bailed out. They were driving down the field, and it looked like they were about to make this a game and make it closer. And Jalen Hurts, they get down to the 10-yard line, and then Jalen Hurts throws an interception, his first of the year. So the Eagles' offense still has a chance, and then they don't convert, and penalties, and A.J. Dillon fumbles the ball, and it was just uninspired. The Eagles' offense looked like it could move at times, and then they forgot how to play offense. So the worry now is, what are our answers? Because we're too good to be losing games like this. But the problem is, this was Thursday night, right? I said this last week when. Well, I didn't say it last week, but I thought this after the Niners game against the Rams last week. The conversation between those two teams going into that game, the Niners were 3-1 at the time, but they were incredibly hurt. And the Rams 3-1, and they looked like a Super Bowl contender, barely losing to the Eagles, right? Like they would have been, the talk of the town. And then the 49ers outplayed them. Now it wasn't a blowout, right? It was a very close game that went to overtime, so it was a much more contested game. But the impression going into that game was that the Rams got it, and it was going to be pretty light. And the Eagles, same thing. It felt like this was a get right opportunity, and the Giants used us to get right. It was, it was belt to ass. It really was. It was a wake up call. The vibe I got, when they panned to the guys, was like, okay, we got punked. We got to figure this out and move on. So I think the Eagles are just going to, as a team, they have to just eat this one. They get a mini bye. Hopefully some of these guys get a little healthier. I am a little bit nervous. Quinyon exited with a hamstring, right? We don't know what, hamstrings, how serious it is, if he's going to be missing multiple weeks. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like on our cornerback situation. We don't have depth. Jacorian Bennett is hurt. Keele Ringo sucks. Adoree Jackson is capable and fine, but every time Adoree makes a good play where he's reaching over and it looks like he's making a good defensive play, the guy catches the ball anyway. So it doesn't even matter what Adoree does at that point, right? So that's a scary place to be in. So we talk about the state of the Eagles. I wouldn't call it oh man, it's time to worry about a collapse. We have 2 games where we can try and figure things out, but the Vikings have 2 of the best receivers in the league, and if our cornerback situation is what it is right now, they can expose that, even with Carson Wentz a quarterback next week. So that's going to be something to really keep an eye on and really monitor. What will this mini bye be able to do in terms of health? Will Jalen Carter be available next game? Was this a game where they also thought oh, I think we can sit this one out without you and, still win this game? And I thought for the most part, they were doing that. The rush defense was playing effective. They were forcing Dart to make big, tough throws, and he did at times, but he also didn't. But then we bailed them out way too many times. And again, they put themselves in position to convert on third down consistently in this game. So I thought that the Giants did all these little things right that the Eagles normally do. And the Eagles were normally more fundamental, more physical, all of that. And we weren't this game. So it just wasn't indicative. We were for a quarter, but that's kind of how it's been all year. We have yet to put together a full game of football. I don't know if this team is capable of doing that with the injuries that we're seeing. And I don't know how good this team really is right now. And it's frustrating. And I think that part of that is, what this offense is doing. I thought overall the offensive, rhythm in terms of getting plays off and running, going play by play, they weren't taking a long time on each snap. It felt much more in rhythm, in control. And you saw that in the first half. You saw how in control Jalen was in running the offense. And then it just, again, fell apart. And I don't understand what they're doing to disrupt this kind of rhythm. I don't know what they're missing. I don't know if the defense is throwing them something different and all of a sudden they don't have an answer. So it's a tough like thing to see. I'm excited. I'm gonna watch the Prime Vision version as like a watch back to kind of see if I can get a clearer picture of this on a rewatch. But I just think that when I'm watching it live in the moment, it just doesn't. It didn't feel like a game that like we were doing everything we could to lose that game, and the Giants did everything they could to take that game from us, and we we didn't force any turnovers. We turned the ball over. We made these inconsistent plays. They had 6 penalties, but we had 4, and all again they were so crucial, right? And Jalen had this back-breaking interception, and it sucks because he was cooking literally up until that point, right? And I think that's just a product of having an offense that isn't, that's fairly predictable. That corner was sitting on that route. He knew it was coming because that's all Jalen was throwing to the whole time, right? You can only do that so many times before teams start to pick up on you. So it's just this is just a bad game. A bad game, I think. Is it a bad sign? Probably, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to say this is a collapse. I thought this is a team that, you're coming off of a Super Bowl. There's no guarantee that, the health and all this luck that you had, all the things going your way last year will continue to go your way on a year to year basis. You're still 4-2. You're still in the lead in the division. So it's like, it's not time to panic yet. It's not like, yes, you lost to the Giants, but maybe the Giants are showing us what they can be. But they didn't have, their top 2 receivers in this game. So it's a frustrating loss because this is another one that you shouldn't have lost. And you shouldn't have been in this position to get punked like this. So I got to give the Giants credit because they showed up to play and the Eagles didn't. They wanted this way more than we did. So, I think the Eagles, I think I'm starting to accept the fact a little bit. I'm not going to come out here and say, like, in 2024, I felt different about this team when we were losing games, right? And when we were 2-2, it felt like the sky was falling a little bit and people were calling for Sirianni's job. So, like, we've lost 2 in a row now. We're 4-2. I can only imagine, for Philly sports. Fortunately for me, I'm not a Philly sports fans of all sports, just the Eagles. So it frees me from the burden of like being attached to just one city for all these sports, right? So basketball, I got Sacramento, which is home, and Philadelphia has just been my team that I've always rode with for the past 20 years, right? So I just think that when we talk about the city of Philadelphia and how they're going to approach this game, how they're going to approach this loss against a bitter rival who we hate the Giants. Like we've been owning the Giants, so it just feels like this was a game that we shouldn't have lost, right? We're the better team through and through, roster, all of that, right? We're supposed to be the standard. And sometimes we get punked. Sometimes teams like this get punked. But then coupled with, the disappointing loss that the Phillies had against the Dodgers, now they're done. Their season's over in the playoffs. And everyone kind of when I was listening to Philly podcasts, they were kind of, preparing for the inevitable, but it almost felt like you had the Eagles to lean on in this situation, right? Guess not. So both Philadelphia teams lose on a really, in really crappy fashion, and it's just one of those things that I can already imagine what the discourse is going to be surrounding the Eagles. Like, oh man, is it Jalen Hurts? Is it Sirianni? Is it Patullo? Is it AJ? Is it this defense? Is it the injuries? Like, at this point, they're going to come up with a million different stories, a million different reasons for why the Eagles aren't as strong as they were last year. And the Eagles aren't as strong as they were last year, especially not at this time. We're not as healthy. We're not playing as efficiently. We're figuring a lot of things out. So I'm here. I'm willing to admit that this team is not as good as the 2024 roster right now. We're not playing it. We have been playing like a mediocre football team. And we have been getting away with some of these wins, and now it's catching up to us a little bit. So, we didn't play the way that we should have. We were ineffective. We were sloppy. We were dealing with injuries. We were dealing with a lot of inconsistency. And we just weren't as, clean and suffocating as we normally are on the defensive side of the ball. And on offense, we still don't have a rhythm. So there's just no complement right now. There's no identity to this team. And they got to figure it out soon because they're going to run into a wall of opponents. And this is where it could fall apart if, we see 3 losses in a row. Like, this is going to be a conversation again. The Eagles haven't lost back-to-back games since the collapse. So how does this team handle that? And Not only that, how do they handle the pressure that the city's going to put on them? Because this is going to be every loss in Philadelphia is an unacceptable loss, but a loss to the Giants in this spot was unacceptable. And it was pathetic. It was a pathetic showing by the defending Super Bowl champs. So, you know, what's the discourse going to be? I'm really interested to see if people come down on Jalen, if they come down on Sirianni. Like for me personally, you know, of course I'm disappointed and I'm frustrated. I never like losing to a divisional opponent, but this on Thursday night, it just felt like anything can happen on Thursday night. It doesn't matter who you are. It's just ugly. It's ugly football. And the Eagles were trying what they could to make things work, and they were inefficient, ineffective, sloppy. They had parts that they fixed, but they let other things leak. This is a leaky, not put together, not complete football team. We're banged up. We are just not the same team, and that's just the reality. You can't do it year after year. You've been to deep playoff runs for the past 5 years now. This is just the toll that it takes to be consistent on a year-to-year basis. We're still 4-2. We're still very much in this, and I'm not pressing the panic button, even though I know everyone around the Eagles and everything like that is going to panic. I understand the goal is to win the Super Bowl, to go back-to-back because you have a roster to do so. But I don't know, man. I think other teams are playing better right now, but that's okay. We still have time to figure this out. It's disappointing back-to-back losses. This is humbling for a lot of, Eagles fans who are very, very confident like myself. So, but I'm not going to sit here and scream. I know a lot of the Philly natives will do that. So, to each their own on how they want to react to this, but I feel like, it's still too early to press the panic button. And there were flashes in this game that shows that they're progressing in the right direction. They still didn't balance the way that they should have, and they had every opportunity to. And I still think we're trying to figure out what our football is and what we want to do this year. So we'll see. It's hard. In a loss, it's like, I've been able to only really point out like the issues, right? Keele Ringo had a really bad game. Zach Bond had a really bad game. Andrew Makuba had a lot of bad moments in this game. And on the defensive side of the ball, we were missing Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell. That was tough. And our offense, had its moments. Jalen threw a costly interception. Sucks. That was the nature of it. His first pick of the year. I knocked on wood and everything, right? On the podcast, on the pregame, I knocked on wood, and I was like, oh, no, unless he does this, if the defensive line for the Giants win their battles, and all these things that I said, the Giants had a puncher's chance in this game. I expected the score to be 34-17, just in the opposite fashion. So, yeah, this was a disappointing loss. I'm talking about it for the second week in a row. Hopefully this mini bye we can get some of these guys right. We have the bye week in 2 weeks after this, after this week, so we have an opportunity to get right here soon and to really look ourselves in the mirror. And for me, I don't think I'm gonna really make any declarations of this team until after the bye week, and that's when we can really start having some of these hard conversations where. The Eagles are going to have guys coming back, from IR, like Nolan Smith's going to be back. We're going to get more, depth again, right? Jalen Carter, hopefully that gives him a chance. Landon Dickerson, is he going to be healthy if the Eagles give him a few weeks off? So these are the things I want to monitor before saying, hey, this season's over, because none of these players are lost for, the season. And that's just for right now. And I don't want to, jinx anything or say anything, but it's too early to panic for me. We still have pieces coming back. This team can still play better. This team can still get better. And I believe that they have the opportunity to do so. They've earned the benefit of the doubt. I think if we really do hear people calling for Sirianni's job and things like that, I just think that's just a little bit overblown. We've done this dance before, right? I think they won the Super Bowl. They earned the benefit of the doubt to try to figure this out. We can't just expect to win every single game that we play, right? We're going to have clunkers. We're going to have bad stretches. Good teams do this all the time. So, this team can go 12-5 and still win the Super Bowl, still win the division with 12-5, right? That's a goal that you can set for yourself, and that's reasonable. So I don't know, man. That's just kind of how I feel in this situation. You never want to take an L, but shout out to the Giants. They handed us an L. We have to eat it. They did a great freaking job out there, man. They have some juice. They have a little bit of aura to that team. When fully healthy, I think this is going to be a dangerous team in the next few years in the NFC East. All of a sudden, with the way the Cowboys have been playing, the Commanders are have been scrappy too. They've been the up and coming team, and the Eagles being the Super Bowl champs. This is a tough division again, which is great. The NFC Beast is coming back and will come back in full force. But for right now, we're 1-1 in the division. We just gotta keep chugging along and see if we can get a win next week against Minnesota, and that's going to be on the road too. So back-to-back road games. It's just going to be, can these Eagles respond? Can they recover a little bit from the mini bye? How healthy are we going into this next game, which is going to be a really tough matchup for our defense. So that's going to be something we need to look into. But for right now, we got to leave it here, guys. It's enough of this loss talk. I think that the Eagles will have a chance to bounce back. I still believe in this team. I still believe in what we can be. I know what we can be, but I need to see more. We're at this stage now where we do need to see a little bit more, but I'm not calling for people's jobs. It's not the sky is not falling right now. At least not in my mind. And I know in Philadelphia it probably is, and we're going to be hearing a lot of this is inexcusable. Sirianni, Jalen Hurts got to play better. We got to find Saquon more. What? We're never happy here. So I'm gonna let them do them, and I'm gonna do me on my end here, and I'm just gonna tell Ben, just like I tell you guys, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be fine. We won our Super Bowl. Let's let it happen the way it's supposed to. These guys have earned the benefit of the doubt. We can't win every single game. We're not gonna win every year. That's just how it goes, guys. So just take that with a grain of salt, and just your day might be a little more gray right now, but it's going to be fine. We got this, guys. We have a chance to bounce back next week. So, with that being said, guys, I'm Marcos Conan Negron. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this post-game pod. Another chance to vent coming off of a disappointing loss. So if you guys want to hit us up, you can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. All of the links to our social medias are going to be down below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, and follow the show. We really appreciate all the love and support that you guys have given us on a week-to-week basis. It's a tough loss, but we're going to get over it. We're going to be better. The Eagles will figure this out. I trust this team. I trust this leadership. We will see. We're gonna learn a lot about this version of the Eagles moving forward. But with that being said, guys, I will talk to you next week. Peace. Fly Eagles fly, baby.